Welcome to this week's Eccentric Minute, brought to you by Eccentric. This week's Eccentric Minute is one of the most slept on exercises with the K-Box, and that is the K-Box row. This exercise is going to tick a lot of boxes and really make you fight to hold your posture while working on your pulling power. For this, give yourself a little extra slack with the strap, not too much, but just enough to avoid the jarring action at the top. Give the wheel a good spin, sit your hips back, and fight to hold that position. Pinch your shoulder blades down and back, try to drive your elbows behind you, and keep fighting to not let that wheel pull you forward and make you lose your posture as you go through the exercise. This is an absolutely sensational, big bang for your buck exercise that you and your athletes, I'm sure, will love. I really hope you enjoyed this week's Eccentric Minute. Make sure you check them out at eccentric.com to find out everything you need about the K-Box and the K-Pulley. Being a strength and conditioning professional requires constant pursuit of better knowledge, better methods, and better means. But what if there was a place where strength and conditioning coaches could learn from some of the most innovative practitioners in the world, such as Jeff Moyer, Lachlan Wilmot, William Wayland, James the Thinker Smith, and Kirwenham Flatt? Well, you can find multiple lectures from each of these top-level coaches and a few lectures and examples from yours truly as well, all in the Strength Coach Network. The Strength Coach Network is going to bring you well over 100 different lectures from some of the top practitioners in the world to be your one-stop shop for your continuing education and professional development. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASP today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS to get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Josh, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Jay, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. First, before we get going too far, man, I got to say welcome to the league. I say this all the time, and I was joking with Vincent about this, kind of joking, kind of not. Like, people would think that, like the A10 is paying me to hype up the strength coaches that we have here. But, man, it's a great league to be part of, and I'm so happy to have you be, part of the A10 family and up here with be able to have a coffee and a laugh at center court here real soon.
Oh, for sure, man. I appreciate it. From you, guys who were previously in the A10, things like that. I've heard nothing but good things. And when I first got the gig here, you were one of the first ones that reached out to me. So, it's love on your end, love on my end. I'm excited to finally get things going here too.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, for the 3/4 of a human that doesn't know who Josh Washington is, let them know who you are, where you're at, and how you got up there to Amherst.
Okay, cool. I'll try to give you a brief little rundown, but Josh Washington, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I grew up playing basketball. I was athletic, skilled, not so much, but pretty much I wanted to be involved in basketball to some capacity. So ended up getting an undergrad in sports management. Senior year, I found out about strength and conditioning, and I'm like, okay, cool, I want to do that. You get to wear shorts and T-shirts to work. You get to live in a weight room. Awesome. But so started from there, interned at UW Milwaukee, Marquette, both Division I schools in my home city, hometown. From there, transitioned, moved all the way to California, the Bay Area, interned at Stanford under Corey Schlesinger at the time with men's basketball there. He's now with the Phoenix Suns. And Corey actually helped basically catapult the trajectory of my career. And he kind of put me on. I always give him credit for that because he led me to Ramsey Nijum, Sacramento Kings at the time. So I did an internship there, got some NBA professional experience. And then from Sacramento Kings, at the time I was working on an online master's in sports coaching, but I really wanted to get a degree in exercise science. I wanted to learn the sciences better. I thought that'd be better for me as a coach, be a better service to my athletes. So I get in contact with Damon Davis through networking, who's over at Auburn. And me and Damon, I've never met him in person. We rapped on the phone a couple times. I actually meet him in person at the Vegas symposium a couple years ago. And then a week later, I'm on a plane going to Auburn. So it was funny how that worked out. But I was at Auburn for 2.5 years, got my master's there in exercise physiology, great grad assistant program there. It was men's basketball only. You don't hear about those too often. Definitely needle in a haystack opportunity, but In my mind, I think I took full advantage of it. And ultimately, that got me here at UMass now. So UMass, Amherst to be exact, men's basketball. And to explain to everyone, because COVID went down, right? Pandemic, like in my mind, I graduated in May, got my master's, cool. By June, July, I have a full-time gig. Well, COVID shut that all down. So like the summer, like everyone else, like I didn't have a job or anything lined up. Thankfully, like Auburn was still paying me at the time, but so it was stressful, right? And I just made a decision. I was like, hey, I can keep stressing about it, or I can just live my life, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So I took a week vacation, and then it was funny. Before I took it, I was like, I got a feeling like I'm going to take this vacation, and then I'm going to end up getting a job right after. So before I even went on the trip, boom, UMass happened. I accepted, week vacation. I come back on a Sunday. That Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm driving up to UMass. So I've been up here since a little over 2 months now. Got a great relationship with the guys, the staff here, but that's where we're at now. That's my journey up until this point. So been around for a little bit, but you know how it is. It's a grind, and you finally get to this point, and I'm happy. I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong, but then, you know, it's just work. So you get back to the grind again. You just start from scratch. It's just a different program, different logo, different conference. But at the end of the day, it's barbells, it's dumbbells. You're in a weight room and you train guys. So definitely, yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think that, first of all, something needs to be said. He talks like he doesn't have skills, but if you watch this man freaking fire a step back, you'd be shaking your head like I was when he's like, you know, a guy who can't hoop a bit. So yeah, and then, you know, obviously, you know, running into Damon last year, great guy, except for the first 6 minutes of the second half. I don't think he was very nice to us, to be honest. But if you guys didn't see the game, we were up like 2, I think, at half, and then before the under 16 media, we needed to call a timeout, and I looked up and I went, how'd that happen? Like, we've all had those games, you know, where it's out of nowhere, but man, like what a team that was. I know, you know, good grief, you know, like we were lucky to have played 2 teams that I think could have actually met in the Final Four, in you guys and Dayton last
Yeah.
year. I mean, just unbelievable. We can get into all that at another time, but I think that the one thing that, you know, we were rapping about a little bit before we got going here is, you know, this transition and some things that you've seen when it comes to the mentality of the players and developing that's really similar across the board.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that, as far as like developing players, like we talk, I mean, especially as strength coaches, we do it physically, right? But I think the other end is like the mental aspect of it. And that's what we were talking about earlier. And it's kind of tough because everyone like mentions like mental toughness and like the culture in your program, things like that. But it's okay, well, how do you build that? Like, how do you go about actually doing it? And I don't have the answers. Like, I always think about it. And I think for me, like what I do day to day is I try to be open and as candid as I can with these guys. Like I'm up front when I'm like, hey, this is going to be hard. And like I let them know right away. It goes from throwing the workout on the TV screen and here in the weight room. I let them know what's expected right off the bat. Like I don't really hit them with surprises or anything like that. I just tell them like, hey, this is what it's going to be today, and it's going to be tough. Cool, like you understand. Okay, we still have to do it and get through it. But the other thing with the just like the mental toughness is, I don't necessarily how to go about building it, but I think if you want to nip it in the bud right away, like you start bringing in people that are already mentally tough. That makes it easier, right? But then the challenge is, what about the people you already have like on your bus? So, you know, if you're trying to get in the right direction. And I think about like when coaches like establish roles like on the team, right? Like, oh, you're going to be a starter, you're going to come off the bench, you're going to contribute and things like that. I think those roles also need to be established elsewhere too, whether it be with the staff or the players, and just understand like whatever your team identity is going to be, whatever you want it to be, I think you need to address that on the front end, and you need to keep revisiting those things. Don't just talk about in the beginning of the year and then like you don't talk about it again to the next year. You never evaluate. So it's interesting on that end for me on how to go about doing it. And I think for me with like our guys here, I just let them know like it's not meant to be easy. Every day we go on the practice court and I'm looking up, I'm like, hey, I don't see any current banners hanging up. Like nobody here has any of those banners. Like So what are we playing for? Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, if you expect that, please stop. Like, that's not this. And I think about back in my time at Auburn and just like guys I'm around now. And I just always say, like, I want dogs in the locker room. I want dogs in the weight room. Like, don't look for anything to be handed to you. Like, when you go take it or when you earn it, nobody can take that away from you. That's yours. Like, you go out, you go hard in the weight room, you go hard on the court, you do win a championship, or you do get to raise a banner in the rafters. Like, that's permanent. Like, they don't take those down, right? So I think about that, and like I'm always trying to remind the guys, like, yo, it's hard, but like remember why we're doing it. Like, we're not just going through it just for the sake of going through it. Like, we have goals set in place and we have goals in mind that we need to hopefully accomplish. And it starts day in and day out, and you can't have any slip ups. And I think for us as coaches, accountability is a big factor in that, as far as like help building mental toughness. And you got to nip everything in the bud, like even like the little things, like you got to address it right away. Because I talk about the sweeping under the rug mentality, and it's like you keep sweeping enough stuff under the rug, you're going to trip over it. And like at some point, like I'll think about the little things, like even when we're watching sets and reps, and it's like, do I say something or do I let him go? I'll give him another rep, and if he still doesn't clean up, okay, now I got to say something, because we're watching it, right? It's on us to say something about it. That's sets and reps, but that's on everything. Like, you late to study hall, why are you late? You're losing weight. Like, why aren't you eating? Like, little things like that. And I told him, like, yo, I'd rather be annoying. I'd rather you like, man, Coach Josh gets on my nerves. I'm cool with that, because like that feeling you have about me means nothing compared to how you're going to feel if we lose a game. Like, I was like, yo, be mad at me if you want. I'll take that. I don't lose any sleep at night over that. But like, I got to hold you accountable, because at the end of the day, what's really at stake, like that's our goal. And man, like we got to achieve that. So I think for me, it's, as far as mental toughness, is the accountability factor and just staying on top of guys. And if you got to grill them and drill them, I mean, that's what it is. But at some point, like they'll figure it out, or I mean, hope they might not figure it out. And then whatever that may be, like that's probably a conversation for another time, because that can go different routes. But yeah, I think that mental toughness thing and just how to go about doing it, that's one that gets me going. And I think if I'm going to make an impact as a coach, it's might be something along those lines, or how to go about doing that.
Yeah, man. I think that a lot of that too is kind of scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because having to stand up and be the person that kind of steps in front of that bus to take the hit, to get into the guys about what's going on there, because we're, for some reason, still looked at as like these enforcers. Is that the word I want?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, being asked that and told that you have to have a great relationship with the players, kind of, or else. You know, that's an interesting juggling act in and of itself.
No, I agree. And it's funny because you have your strength coach, and then you have like your head basketball coach, and like you see other places or just like previous experiences. If your head coach is like a hard ass, does the strength coach like take a different route, or vice versa? Like this, if the head coach is like, nah, I'm gonna be the guy who loves up on our guys, I need our strength coach to be the hard ass. And it's tough because like you said, like we're in a situation where, okay, if I'm hard ass, but yet also I'm trying to build a relationship with you, the player's gonna be looking at me like, yo, like you two different people, like, and like that's one thing you don't want to do. Like if players realize or they assume you're fake, like you kind of already lost them. So I think for me, and I don't take it lightly, but like, especially with like race and like all this other stuff going on in the world, like I understand like most of the guys I'm training, I look just like them. I'm also younger, so I'm a little bit more relatable. So I use that to my advantage in the weight room. So I am hard on them. Like I don't slack up or anything like that. But the same token, like I'm also the guy to kind of love up on them too. So I realize how I take it in the weight room. I'm hard on you. I'm on your ass. On the court, coaches are more likely like on your ass, like with the plays and stuff like that. So on that side, I'll probably go up behind them. I'm basically saying the same thing my coach is saying, but in a different tone, right? So, and I think that helps. But then the other thing with that, like you said, like as far as you got to hold them accountable, but then how do I build these relationships? And I think maybe for the younger listeners out there who guys are trying to break the field, and definitely like be available. And what I mean by that is like, if you have multiple teams, like if you have time, like get out to practices, try to get lunch with your guys or girls if you can. Like, don't just be in the weight. They need to see you outside the weight room, because I would imagine how most of us are. Like, we have a certain demeanor in the weight room, but outside of here, we probably show a totally different personality or whatever that may be. So I think for me, like, I only have one team. I'm fortunate for that. So I'm in the weight room. I'm at every practice. And then the guys, like, they start grabbing, when are we going to eat? When are we going to eat? I'm like, oh, okay, so we're going on campus. I'll eat with you guys. And I think for that and just being around them, like, I let them pick the music, little things like that. So I give them things on that end that, so on the return, like when I'm asking for something, it's a little bit easier for them to do it. I don't know if it's even hard. These guys have been so great. I say, hey, we're doing this. They say, okay. No issues on that end whatsoever. But I don't want to lose my train of thought here. But yeah, I mean, that's just where it's been at right now on that end. Just trying to find that line or try to distinguish when to be a hard ass or when, okay, hey, let me reel you in a little bit. Let me talk to you. And I think a big thing is part of it, like for me, like I'll have a lot of one-on-one conversation with the guys, letting them get to know me. Cause I think that goes a long way in building that relationship, whether it be the guys here, they know I love, like I'm a little sneakerhead. I love shoes. So we can talk about shoes, talk about music, whatever. But then in the weight room, like, okay, I'm gonna kill you on this weight, or like I'm gonna grill you, like if you're not doing what you need to be doing in the weight room. And they understand that, and the guys have been great. It's only a couple of them where I have to like get on them, but I think the big thing, and we haven't talked about this yet, with the whole culture piece, I like competition in the weight room, not necessarily competing against your teammates, but with yourself. But then it's one thing for me to say it, but now if your teammates are calling you out, you can kind of take a step back. It's like now it's peer to peer. Now, if your peers calling you out, now you got to do it. Like, it's not on me anymore. But I think that drives a program and like pays dividends in the long run, just having like that peer-to-peer competition. And it's not like guys are saying like, oh, you can't do it. It's more so like, I did it, you got to do it. We all did it. Like, what are you doing? So it's a healthy competition. It's not negative in any way. It can get to that point, but fortunately here, like I haven't had that situation thus far.
I think that point is worth its weight in gold. And I think that that's something that, as a lot of these kind of wheels has been turning in the world of sport because of some negative things that have happened with people making bad decisions,
Mm-hmm.
not having kind of those rites of passage that teams have. And it's something that I got away from for a while because of bad things that have happened at other schools that have led to really traumatic things that, people were like, you better pull the plug on all this stuff. But I think that you said a couple things that were really important in there. One is seeing you outside the weight room, whether it's at practice or not, but like being able to eat with the guys is probably when I was one of the two times that I knew we were going to be good. Mm-hmm. Is like seeing how they are outside of training and practice and like seeing how they got along. And the second is understanding that no one is ever safe around them. Excuse me, in a sense of you're going to get your balls busted no matter what. Oh, we're in the weight room? Oh, well, I just did 10 pull-ups with, 25-pound dumbbell between my feet. Oh, you only did 8 with your body weight. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that today was the day we were going to let people be soft in the weight room. I didn't know that. Hold on. I'll go do another set while you just keep being like when you can just sit there and laugh at them when they're talking trash back and forth. Mm-hmm. That's when you kind of know that that they kind of get it, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that too, like, at least like the environment I always wanted to create in the weight room, like I always wanted to be in fun. I want to be enjoyable because we talk about, driving intent and things of that nature. But I feel like if you don't want to do it, like your intent is only going to be so far. Whereas if you enjoy it, you're having fun, like now your intent has much more potential. Excuse me. So with that, it goes down to like, I let guys pick the music in the weight room. Like I'm not working out. I don't care. So I let them pick the music. I give them some type of freedom as far as like the exercises. Like if we do like a curl to press, for example, do we rotate the handles or how do you want us to curl it? You pick. It don't really matter to me. I let the guys pick things like that. But the big thing is that when I first got here, I told them, I said, hey, this is our program. I might write up the training and things like that, sure, but like this is our pro and this is our weight room. Like I need y'all to take ownership. So it goes down from, with COVID measures and like wiping down like barbells and plates and things like that to, okay, what we got on the lift? Okay. And then guys are looking at like their lift cards. They're writing everything down. They're looking at their teammates' lift cards. And that whole, just that camaraderie right there, that competing right there, like it's great. I like pushing the guys. I love it even more when they push each other. But like you said, when you see them outside the weight room and see how they are, and I noticed like I got guys like one player specifically, he FaceTimes me every time he eats. Cause I've been like, yo, I need you to get your weight up. He has a nice solid frame. He can put some mass on, but I'm on him about eating. So he FaceTime me at least twice a day. And I always like, whatever I'm doing, I do drop it. I'm like, okay, fine. Cause I know why he's calling. Like I want to being available. Right. I'm okay, cool. Hey, what you got? He was like, you see what I'm eating? He shows me everything. So it's I always give the guys like that sandwich approach. So I'll give you a pat on the back at first. I'll probably grill you like, okay, what'd you get to drink? Because I know you got like soda. You probably shouldn't have soda. And he laughs. And then I'll go back, but hey, it's good. I'm glad you're eating like a real meal right now. This is how grown men eat. And then you know what I'm saying? So you give them that sandwich approach and then let them go from there. I do the same thing in the weight room too, but no, it's fun watching guys because right, they're young and they're still growing. And I think that's the best part is when you see a guy develop, not just physically. In my mind, like the physical thing will happen with consistency and training, but like the mental change, when you see guys really like grow up and like, okay, hey, I see a guy like younger, right? Doesn't really like the weight room, probably still doesn't, but he understands the importance of it. And like his whole mindset, he comes into the weight room like, I'm here to work. I might not like it, but I know what it's going to do for me on the basketball court. And those are great to see. I mean, it's really great when a guy loves the weight room. Like, okay, at that point, like you can't get him to leave. But for the guys that don't love the weight room, seeing that transition from I don't like the weight room, I don't want to be here to, okay, like it is what it is, but this is important. I need this, right? So, and then go from there. And I think a big part for me is trying to relate what we're doing in the weight room to the court. Because I think that helps, especially for the guys who don't want to be here. And it's like, well, at least you have some understanding to it, some context. It might be the reason why you flip the switch. I don't know. But no, I think that might be my favorite thing. Not so much the physical stuff, but seeing them change mentally and growing up and developing and maturing from that end.
It's probably the most rewarding.
100%. Yep.
And I think too that, again, going back, you say you don't have talent in the freaking game, but like when they can turn on and see like all of a sudden he's taking a freaking behind the back step back and it's like schwap, or like, a hezzy into a freaking right hand cradle dunk. And it's like, unfortunately, believe it or not, a 5'9", 41-year-old doesn't quite have the skill set to be able to do that and broadcast it onto the internet. But I bet that helps.
No, it definitely helps. And like Jay, like I don't want to for listeners who are listening, like I played Division III basketball. Like I was okay. Like I think I'm better now than I was back then. And so the guys here, like I joke all the time, like yo, like it's sad that you guys probably the only team whose strength coach would probably give y'all buckets, and they hate when I talk so much trash to them. But honestly, like because it stems from the weight room, and I see them on the court, and for me, like I enjoy basketball. I grew up playing, right? So I use that to my advantage. And I tell them like, yo, there's no real, like, if you're really serious about this, there's no off day. Like you get, like, if you play basketball and you enjoy it, you get shots up. So like, there is no off day. So for me, I come in on off days, I get shots up. So when I do post the things like that, it's honestly, it's more so for them than not. Cause they see it. I'm like, yo, your strength coach in the gym more than you. Like, how am I racking up more shots than you are? And they always say, well, you can't guard me. I was like, I don't know about that. But like, we go back and forth. It's fun. For me, like I just honestly, like I'll probably take moves I see on the NBA and I just try to mimic them. Like I don't like running on the treadmill or anything like that. So me getting on the court, that's like my form of cardio. But when the guys do see me out there, they do see me doing some stuff, I just use it as like ammo. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, how am I on the court more than you? And like the guys know, and just from teams I've been around in the past and the successful teams and things like that, I realized like there's a common theme. Like guys who played really well, like when it mattered, they were in the gym. You couldn't get them out. Like gym rats are like, if you're a gym rat, that's a solid. And for me, like guys, like if they're missing shots in practice, shots they expect to make, I just say, hey, I was like, when you're in the gym, everything's a layup. That's like my coin that I'm trying to like phrase now and just keep using it. Cause in my mind, when you shoot enough in the gym, like when you get to practice, like those shots are automatic. You don't hesitate, you just shoot. So a big thing for me, like outside of the weight rooms, I just try to push them. Hey, get on the court, get on the court. And if they see me on Instagram and I post it and I'm sending stuff to them too, I'm like, hey, I'm in the gym. Where you guys at? And like they comment, they trash talk back, but they know it's coming from a loving place. Because at the end of the day, like we all want to succeed, right? But I let them know it's like, hey, you don't expect to make shots just because you're on the court. Like it don't work like that. Like I'm on the court too. Like, but if I'm not practicing, like, what do you expect to happen? Like you practice what you preach, or no, that's not what I meant to say. You practice to be perfect, or you practice to be permanent, right? So the things like that, like we do stuff in the weight room, we get stronger. Okay, cool. We keep improving. You got to do it on the court. Just because you shot one day, cool. You got to do it again. Like it doesn't just stay with you like that. But guys are getting there to that point. It's just, like I said before, it's fun watching them grow. And then the fact that I used to play basketball, like I still do, I'll use that to my advantage. If anything, to try to make it like a little bit of incentive to get guys to come to the gym.
Yeah, and I think that that's a unique perspective that a lot of basketball people have, that it's like, what we do is fun and what we get to do is important and what we get to do can help. But like, if you aren't in the gym, for some reason, like basketball just seems to be unique like that. Like if you're not in the gym, like that skill, like it does kind of evaporate. So I think a lot of us actually try to set these workouts and these extra things and all that stuff that we do with them around them being able to do that. And I think that that's kind of cool, and but it's unique to this little subculture in basketball.
Yeah. And like with that too, and like from the guys who are listening that have been involved around basketball, they know like for basketball players, like for them, like the guys who want to get in the gym, it always has to be late at night. For whatever reason why, I don't know. It has to be at night. And I tell them like, first of all, like that's, if you want to do that, okay, fine. But I always tell them like, we live in a society now where like we need instant validation. So coaches, like we don't fall guilty of that either. So the player says, oh, coach, I was in the night getting shots up. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I was at home with my family or my kids. I didn't see you getting shots up. So in my mind, it didn't happen. And I told the players that, and it's like, hey, like you try to get shots up during the day. A, like one, like coach sees that. A, so get shots up on that end. But then B, like that shouldn't always be a habit. Like at night, you should be trying to go to bed or get ready to wrap things up and get prepared for the next day. So with COVID and things like that, like guys' access to the gym has changed. And for me, like trying to be available, like I've told coach, I said, hey, if like guys want to get shots up, like I'm making myself available. Like I know it's important. Like if you guys want to shoot, cool, I'll open the gym up. Let's make it happen. Things like that. What else was I gonna say with that? Just I don't know why, like they always want to shoot at night. And it's like, oh, the other thing was it's not so much the duration or like the quantity of time you spend in the gym, but the quality. And I think a lot of guys miss that. Oh, I got up 1,000 shots. Okay, cool. How many of those were game reps? Because anybody can catch and just, shoot lazy. I'm like, yo, you shoot like that in the game, like what's going to happen? A, you probably won't get your shot off because guys probably going to close out on you too fast. But then B, like, you probably going to end up rushing your shot. Like, and I think it happened like we were with the Kings at the time, and Ramsey Nigel made a good point. He's like, he pulled one guy, and he's like, yo, you shoot this like wing three, you probably get like 4 attempts a game. Instead of shooting like 500,000 reps of like just garbage shots, why don't you concentrate on that shot and shoot 250 of them? Right? And you drill 200, you're smoking, like say you hit like half of those out of 250. All I'm asking you to do is hit 4 of those in a game, but you got all the practice on the front end. Like that's a piece of cake. That's easy for you. So I can't remember where I got the book from, but the term was deliberate practice. And like, that's a big thing for me. and trying to relate to the guys. And like, I just say, hey, when you shoot, it's got to be game speed. And like, that's deliberate practice. And you go into practice like you have a goal in mind. That's like, we go to practice, coach has the practice schedule already typed up. That's deliberate practice. We have a plan. This is what we're going to do. Don't just go in the gym. What are you going to do? I'm going to get shots up. Okay, what kind of shots? And then they don't know where to go from there. It's like, yo, write it up ahead of time. Or like at least have a thought process to it beforehand. So if you're going to go in and shoot, what are you going to work on? No, I'm going to work on shooting threes. Okay, cool. What threes do you shoot based on our offensive scheme? Maybe you should shoot in those spots and don't just shoot quarter threes when in reality, you're probably going to get shots from the wing. Like, that's deliberate practice. And guys need to understand that, because it's cool if you want to work on your game and things like that, but also be realistic, because if in coach's offense, you don't get the dribble and go to the basket. Maybe you shouldn't be practicing that. Maybe you should just practice on catch and rip and shoot, catch and rip pull up, or like think about, and I don't know where I got this from, but like for guys or anybody who's listening, if you're trying to relate this to your players, look at your offense and have that guy pick out, okay, where are you more likely to score at? Work on stuff in those spots and work on scoring from those positions, period. Like, you'll see a difference change than you just, I'm going to jack up 100 threes in each spot around the perimeter. I'm like, you might not shoot those shots all the time. Like, why waste your time? So deliberate practice is huge on that end, as far as guys is trying to like map out like their training, or like when they get on the court and things like that. I think it just pays dividends. But yeah, deliberate practice for sure. That'd be a big thing I think guys should work on moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that ties into something that I've, talked with our guys about a lot. I think it's really what you're kind of getting at there, and that is just the role of routine, and how routine is so important with these young people, and understanding that like you need to get into these types of routines so that you can start to progress and start to push yourself more and to be more involved. Is that the word I'm looking for? Or
Yeah.
more like engulfed in the situation, because even going back to like your guy that's eating, right? Like a lot of these kids, for some reason, aren't used to eating 3 meals a day. I don't understand it. If I don't eat 3 meals a day, I'm one angry SOB. Like, I wouldn't, I don't like being around me. I couldn't imagine being one of them and having to deal with me. But like, I got one kid who like, man, if he has like 3 mini muffins before practice, and even if we practice at 4, like he's good. I'm like, I'd probably like look like a lizard at this point. Like I'd look like Godzilla. I'd be losing my mind all over the place if that's all I ate. Like, I don't know. So when they start to learn these things, and they, like you were talking about before, they grow and they build and they start to get into these other aspects where they understand, even if it's as simple as, like, what was it, like the Kobe thing, right? Like he never left a practice without making 10 free throws or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Steph. I don't know. It was one of the people who scored a lot of points in the NBA. Like something that simple, that routine, like you said earlier, it makes every shot feel like a layup.
Like that. And I remember this was a while back. I seen Dirk Nowitzki. He was shooting, when guys shoot like elbow to elbow, they shoot one spot, they go to the elbow and shoot. He was doing that drill, but the first 15 minutes of the drill, he was walking his steps instead of running, literally walking. That was 15 minutes. Next 15 minutes, now he's jogging, doing the same thing. Now he's just picked up the pace. And then the last 15 minutes, now he's going full speed. But if you're watching, I was like, his shot mechanics never changed. The amount of steps he took never changed. He just ramped up the speed to where he was in rhythm and just went like that. And I try to explain that to like guys here, and it's like, not everyone, like sometimes we get in a conversation and I'll explain it, but like it's the same thing when you're mapping out like your training or anything like that. It's start small, maybe, or start here, build on it, and then get to a point where it's automatic, right? It's just second nature. So we talk about like consistency with training in the weight room. Like your on-court habits need to be the exact same, right? Like you need to be consistent. You need to have a routine, whatever that may be. Like guys have a free throw shooting routine, right? Like that should be the same with everything. Just have your routine. Like whether it be free throws or shooting threes or shooting mid-range jumpers, even though the game is kind of getting away from that now, but like just have a routine or whatever that may be. You can always build on it. You can always edit it, but you can't edit a non-existent routine. Like you need something. You can't, because if you go in and shoot, like we were talking before, you're just throwing stuff on the wall to see if it sticks. Like, no, like have something written down or have a thought process about it first and then be able to build from there. That's how you fine tune things. But another thing with that, what was I going to say about that? Damon Davis, he's a men's basketball strength coach at Auburn. And we talk about like the motor learning, building those skills. And I love that he did this with his son. His son was in middle school at the time. Younger kids, like they don't have the strength to shoot threes. So they develop poor mechanics shooting, right? They load from the hip. They like slingshot the ball up to the hoop. And then you see that carry over to when they get older, they just have a terrible shot. And with him, he said, you're not shooting threes. Like he yells at him, like, don't shoot threes. And like at the time, like I don't think his son liked it. And if it was me, I probably wouldn't either. But I'm like, yo, that helps you out so much more now, because now that he gets older, now he can shoot. Now he has the strength. He was training him too, but now he has the strength to shoot those threes. He already has the mechanics. So he's one of the better kids I've seen playing. It's like a lot of them, like, yo, because your shot is just so much more consistent because you improve those habits are ingrained now. You're not loading from the hip, like you're actually shooting your shot pocket and you get good lift on your shot. So I think about stuff like that, and I don't have kids now, or like if I were training like younger kids or things like that, I'm like, okay, that's definitely something I'm gonna do. Like, no, we gonna baby step you. The threes will be there, and like Steph Curry and like the way the guys are changing the game now, like it made it harder for like coaches and parents to try to get their kids to maybe shoot inside the 3-point line and to develop those better habits. But I mean, I'll take the same approach Damon did. It's like, hey, I'd rather my kid be mad at me, but like if you want to shoot or you want to play basketball, you need better habits. So that's I always think about that because it was interesting to me.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Well, listen, Josh, this is absolutely killer stuff, man. But where can people follow you, find out more what you're doing? Check out that sidestep, that James Harden like jab step 3 that you got too, man. Like it's
for sure. So that you can follow me on Instagram. That's probably the biggest spot. Instagram, Strength Coach JW. I'm not on Twitter. The guys here give me a hard time about it. It's just I'm kind of stuck in between like old school and new school. So if I pick one social media, Instagram seems to be the best route for me. So you can follow me there. My email, it's on our school's website, but it's jwashington@umass.edu. The best way to contact me is through Instagram. If you guys that do have it, it says like requests. So sometimes I forget to click, but I will respond. I always respond, but that's the best route to reach me on there.
Love it, man. Josh, great to see you, man. Again, welcome to the league. So fired up to have you, man. And it's been great catching up. And I look forward to having a coffee at mid-court here real soon. And, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time today.
Jay, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And my last little tidbit, too, because guys like to trash talk me, too, and they see me post my stuff. So when COVID resides or whatever it is like that and gyms open back up, you can drop your location and we can schedule a time to play ball, too, because I'm cool with the chatter, but like I'm gonna need you guys to back it up too for the guys who are sliding my DMs with the trash talk. I welcome it, but just know it's gonna be a point in time and place when we gotta play.
Listen, I'm out. I'm more than happy to open the gym and let y'all in our facility if you want to hoop. But like, man, hey, listen, I know I'm 41. I know my boundaries, and my boundaries are where the blue line goes all the way around. Other than when it's just time to warm people up or stretch them. Other than that, I'll take my fat ass and sit at the end of the bench. I'm all right.
That's all right.
But I appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Appreciate it, Jay. Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. Cheers.